Yes, sir. I would like to have about your religious little bit because we don't know about that.
Hmm.
Haven't been talked to any Jewish people before, like I mentioned this. So just I want to know to haram. This is forbidden in the pig, the meat of the pig and the alcohol. I heard about that. This is also haram in
So no,
I mean,
so pig is haram.
doing
So
the
pig is not permitted. Um, we don't eat. Let's see. We don't eat. We only eat animals. We only eat animals that chew their cud and um, have split hooves. So that means we eat goats, sheep, um, cattle. We could eat deer, um,
Mhm.
but that's it for mammals. So we don't eat camels. We don't eat horses. We don't eat any kind of like rabbits or anything like that. Fishes, we only eat fishes that have scales and fins. We don't eat shellfish like prawns or lobsters or crabs. We don't eat any of those. Um, we don't eat milk with meat. So makes biryani very hard. Right? No yogurt and meat together. We eat milk and meat separately. We don't eat that together. Um, and alcohol, alcohol actually is permitted. It is permitted. It's not permitted to get drunk,
Okay.
except for one time a year. Honestly, we have one holiday where we do drink, but other than that, really, you're not supposed to get drunk. God forbid. But and different Jews deal with that differently. There's some Jews who drink more, some drink less. I happen to be part of a sect that almost doesn't drink at all. Just happens to be that we're not drinkers. Um, we have a lot of we have a lot of um, we have one day a week that is completely dedicated just to God. So from Friday night until Saturday night, we don't use computers, we don't use telephones, we don't use cars, um, we don't cook, we just go to synagogue, we eat our meals with our family with no computers and no phones and nothing like that. Um, and we spend a lot of the day in synagogue and with friends and studying also. One of the things for us is it's very important to study Torah. Studying is very, very important to us. And so we spend, try to spend a lot of time doing that, at least on Shabbat, that's on Saturday, but certainly during the week also. Um, and we have lots of things which are haram. We have lots of many things.
Yes,
Uh,
good. It's similar to the our Muslim, the same whatever they're talking about the same similar, Even there is a prawn and the whatever you say the jellyfish, jellyfish and prawn is also little bit of provided. Our Muslims not eating, most of. They
right. A
say
lot of, there are variations among Muslims. There are some things, if you're Hanafi or Maliki or whatever, they're different, some different rules. Um, but it's very much like that. It's easy to explain to Muslims because they understand, and plus also animals, we have to cut the animal just like Muslims, right? That we have to.
ah,
So it has to be one cut, and
okay.
say a prayer before cutting it, and that's why most people, most Muslims in the West hold that kosher meat, our meat, is halal also.
Halal, yes, yes, yes. That's good.
So
One thing
many.
more I want to know if we want to see the West and our Asia sides, it's a different the dress code for women. So what is your
Yes,
thing about the
right,
dress code for women, especially?
right. So Orthodox women, so religious Jewish women,
Mm-hmm.
wear long sleeves. They wear
Mm-hmm.
long sleeves and long skirts, and
Okay.
also, and married women cover their hair. Um,
Okay.
so married woman will wear a scarf, or sometimes actually now a lot of women wear wigs. They cover their hair with wigs, so you think it's their hair, but it's not really their hair. Um,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, so sleeves at least to below the elbow, and skirts below the knee. and shirts that go up to the collar, up to here. And that's kind of that's kind of the dress code. And the dress code for men is actually similar. Um, we're also supposed to dress modestly, and the the standard for religious Jews, the standard kind of uniform for men is black pants and a white shirt. We always, I'm wearing black pants and a white shirt right now, but I also happen to be wearing my robe for the holiday.
You wore that robe when I had dinner with you too, did you not?
Yes. So Friday night, right? So what for Shabbat and holidays, we wear something fancy. The idea, it's kind of it's like wearing a tuxedo, I guess. It's like you're supposed to be fancy on the holidays, so that was Shabbat, so that's why.
Yeah, I remember that very well, in fact. But is it actually a robe, or?
I mean, it's a coat. I don't know if you a robe. It's a coat. Yeah, it's a kind of coat. This is actually called a Yerushalmi kaftan. A kaftan. So they're different kinds. Different people wear different kinds, and this is one. This is actually popular in Jerusalem. The Jerusalem style.
What about the marriages? How many marriages can the men, how many can the marriage?
So, interesting enough, so theoretically speaking, right? Theoretically speaking, we can have more than one wife.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, I mean, the patriarchs did, right? Abraham did, Isaac did, right? Jacob did, right? So they had more than one wife. So you could theoretically do that. There are different kinds of Jews. So Ashkenazi Jews, that is Jews from Eastern Europe, made a rule that we would not have more than one wife because our Christian neighbors didn't have more than one wife, and it didn't look good. So we restricted ourselves to one wife about 1,000 years ago. And so for the last 1,000 years, we have not had more than one wife. In Eastern communities, so people from Morocco, Yemen, Algeria, Iran, other places, in some of those places, people had multiple wives. Now it's not so common, just because most people most of those people are living in Israel or in Europe or other places, and it's not practical. The only time when it does happen is, like, for example, if there's, like, among Eastern Jews, it may be that if the woman can't have a child, right, you don't want to divorce the woman, whatever, you still have relationships, so you marry somebody else and have children. So that does sometimes happen. But so practically speaking, most people are not polygamous, but it's not forbidden, except for Western Jews who chose. Actually, it was about 1,000 years ago. In the year 1000, we agreed to it, and it was a 1,000-year ban. So the ban actually is expired, but because everybody accepted it, we continue to observe it. So that's where that is.
Now they ask about for example, in Christianity, especially, so who work for a church, or who the man with the church or father, like sister, like we are calling sister and father. Mm-hmm. So they are not going to marry, for whole life. They stay. This is same like you.
No. No. We really are supposed to marry, and and even the truth is, like, for a religious leader, should definitely be married. I mean, it's a I mean, obviously, things happen, people get divorced, and things do happen. Obviously, that's not divorce is permitted, and it's not uncommon. It does happen. It's not when it has to happen, it happens. And there's a process for divorce, just like there's a process for marriage. Um, but it's preferred that a religious leader be married. Because it grounds a person, right? When a person is married and they have children, it makes them a little more sensible, right? And you want people making decisions. Maybe the difference is that because Judaism is like Islam, a legal religion, where part of the role of a religious leader is to make religious rulings, like fatwas. You want somebody who's balanced and who understands the stakes, who understands the implications of his decisions, right? And so a married person and a person with a family is going to understand that better. So it's actually preferable. Plus, also, it's good for your character. Having to raise children, you boys, raising children and having a marriage, all those things are things which help you grow as a person. And so we would not consider it to be healthy if a person said, I'm not going to marry because I want to serve God. That would not be a thing that we would do. There are some people who are like that, and okay, what can you say? I mean, you can't force people. Sometimes they do force people. I think that's not a good idea. If a person says that, that they don't want to marry, maybe they let them not marry, but still, it's preferable to be married. Yeah, we have no monks. No monks.
Sir, we would like to know about more your religious regarding of, for example, we are Muslim here. We have Shia and Sunni and like that. What do you have to say? This is like that in your religious also?
Yes, we have very big differences.
For example, this is your Catholic and Christianity or different, many.
Right. So our big difference is between what I would call liberal or modern Jews and more traditional Jews. So I'm obviously much more traditional, right? I'm quite traditional. Imagine Carla is probably not so traditional, right? So that's a very big difference, right? That's a very big difference. So there are Jewish sects which are much more liberal, that don't observe a lot of the laws. But even within the Orthodox world, so even within those people who I would say traditional, there's a lot of variation. Some of that variation is based on culture and geography, meaning to say that Jews from Eastern Europe are very different in some ways than Jews from North Africa or from Yemen or from Turkey, right? Those Jews have different customs. So I, for example, even though my family is from Eastern Europe, I pray in a community of Jews who are from Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Persia, right? All those places. And it's very different. It's very different. Customs are different. The way of praying and the music and tunes and things a lot of things are very different. And even legal rulings are different. They use a slightly different methodology for legal rulings. So the legal rulings can be different. Then there are philosophical differences. So I, for example, I'm Hasidic, which is kind of like Jewish Sufi, right? Meaning to say a little bit more mystical, a little bit more involved with a kind of love relationship with God, personal relationship with God. Also having a relationship with a teacher, with kind of like your sheikh, for example. I mean, so there are definitely different kinds of Jews, and sometimes there's conflict. I mean it's I went to give an example.